Hey, hi everyone, welcome back. So, guys, as part of the today's session, we are going to talk about the auto waiting mechanism that we have as part of the Playwright. So, by default, whenever you try to perform any operations, your Playwright program will wait for specified amount of time. What is the best example for that? So ideally, consider that you have a click command. Internally, the playwright is gonna verify whether the element is visible or not, whether the element is stable or not, whether the element is able to receive the events or not, and whether the element is enabled or not. All these four different actions your playwright will check on the given element, and within the default timeout, which is a 30,000 milliseconds, if it get a success for all these one, then only it will be proceeding further. Else, if any one of these checks got a fail, it will be giving a timed out exception stating that your test script, the desired element, is not loaded. Okay, perfectly all right. Let me show you a simple example for this, the default timeout, so that you guys can better understand this particular concept of auto waiting mechanism. Okay, so what I'm gonna do right now is I just picked this application. Okay, and on this particular application, whenever you clicked on this particular button, it's taking around a 15 to 20 seconds to load to get this confirmation message. We will see how exactly the playwright is performing the auto waiting mechanism on a click. So here, let me perform a right click, inspect, and this is having an ID. So here I'm using await. Okay, page dot locator, and here hash, and this is gonna be a click. As and when you perform a click operation, the next one is prompting the confirmation message, and it's taking around a 20 seconds, but still on that particular one, I just wanna perform a click operation. So here page dot locator, and this is a class, and I'm gonna use a click operation on it. Okay, and I'm just gonna use a click operation on it. As part of my playwright configuration, I'm just giving a default time load value as a 30,000 milliseconds. Let me try to run this particular program and check it out how exactly it's performing the operations. It clicked on it and it's waiting, and until the element got load, see here waiting. So we haven't specified, we haven't asked it to wait, but in the backend, before performing the click operation, it will check for all these four actions, whether the element is visible or not, whether the element is stable or not, whether the element is able to receive the events or not, whether the element is enabled or not, all this up to 30 seconds. If it was able to receive that, then it will be executing successfully. See here, the element is enabled after around a 15,437 milliseconds. Okay, that's the thing. Okay, perfectly all right. So we do have this auto waiting mechanism. Consider that. Consider that my program does has in my configuration, I have just 3000 milliseconds itself. Okay, my configuration does has just 3 seconds itself, but the element is taking around a 15 seconds. So definitely your script will fail upon loading. Your script will fail stating that, see here, element, I just waited for 3000 seconds and you are asking it me to wait for, okay, the element is not loaded. So the element is taking around a 15 seconds to load and I have a maximum time of a 3 seconds. That's the reason it got a fail. Okay, perfectly all right. And if you look at these auto waiting mechanism, when you consider the different types of an actions, consider the text field. For that text field, it's checking whether the element is visible or not. It's checking whether the element is enabled or not. And additionally, it's also checking whether the element is editable or not. The reason is, in order to enter a value or in order to clear a value from any text field, it should be editable. So it is checking in the backend and it will be waiting for maximum amount of time what exactly it was defined. Okay, perfectly all right. So let's come back here. Let us change this default timeout value to timeout value to just 30 seconds. So here in this situation, for suppose if you want to wait for an element to load, by default there is a hard coded locator. Okay, the hard coded locator that we wanna use here is, which is a wait for timeout. Okay, wait for timeout. I'm giving around a 16,000 milliseconds. Okay, I'm giving a 16,000 milliseconds. So this is gonna be a hard coded time value. Hard coded time value. It will just strictly stop that execution at that particular amount of time. Okay, whenever that command comes in, right? So it is just waiting for that. If you look at it, basically it's waiting for this 16 seconds to perform completion, and after that 16 seconds then only it will proceed further. So here it's waiting strictly 16 seconds. That's what the significance of a wait for timeout is. Ideally you don't want to check anything, I just want to wait for certain amount of time. In such cases you can use this wait for timeout. Okay, perfect. And here there will be a small tricky part that we need to consider. Consider that the timeout here is, which we are defining as part of the configuration file, is a 3000 milliseconds, and as part of your program you are defining it as a 16,000 milliseconds. So what it will happen when you run the program, whether that 3000 will work or whether this 16,000 will work. Let me run this particular program and check it out what it's gonna happen. So here, if you check it out, the execution, the script got a failed page wait timeout of 3000 milliseconds. The meaning out over here is basically as that a global timeout, the configuration is the key thing. Though you have a specified the time dot here, it will not consider this time for the entire test. It will be considering this a global timeout as well. Okay, it will be considering this global timeout as well. If someone asks you in the interview if both are there, which will be having the importance, you can say that the timeout that you are defining as part of the configuration file does has an importance. Okay, perfectly all right. So this is all about a verify auto waiting one. This is a sample program that we have created. Okay, let me copy this particular test, comment it out, and let me put this particular test as an auto waiting 2. And here, as part of this auto waiting, so what are we gonna do here is, I don't wanna have this hard coded value. Instead, await page dot, see here among this wait for there is a selector. Okay, you do have an option to wait for this particular element to load. Okay, you do have an option to wait for this particular element to load. Okay, perfectly all right. Just give me a second, guys, just a second. Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me continue this particular topic. So here, what we were doing is we are asking it to wait for this particular selector. Okay, let me try to run this particular program. And if you observe right now, it performed that operation and it is waiting for this particular selector to load, to display, and then it will be performing the further sets of operations. Okay, and then it is going to perform the further sets of an operations. Perfectly all right. So this is the way. See here, if you observe, for this element, it took around a 15,413 milliseconds to load. Okay, it took this much of time to load. That's it. So this is the way how exactly we can add a wait. And explicitly, if you want to add another wait, right? So what we can do is page dot locator. And what is that particular locator? Get that locator. Along with that, on this particular locator, I can ask wait for. As and when you type for wait for, it is asking for the state of that element, whether that element is visible or not. So here you can pass the state of that particular element and it can be attached, hidden, visible. So I want that element to be visible. Okay, I want that element to be visible. So when I run that particular program, even this one, for suppose if the auto waiting is not working, in such a cases, these commands that we can use, wait for a selector or wait for all these options that we can play around. Okay, perfectly all right. So let it execute so that we can see this example. Okay, so the execution got completed and it successfully waited for this much amount of time. And consider that this is an element. On this particular element, you are trying to get that particular test. Okay, so let me create a new test here. Okay, so let me create a new test for the better visibility. So here copy this test and I'm creating a new test auto waiting 3. So here instead of performing a click operation, okay, instead of performing a click operation, I'm trying to get the text content on that particular element. Okay, and I'm storing it in a constant value is equal to, and here console.log value. Okay, console.log value. So here what we are using, we are using a text content method here. And even by default, the text content does wait for that element to load. Okay, the text content also wait for that particular element to load. So that's the reason, see here, it's still waiting for that element to load. So which means the click, fill, text content, all these commands will wait for that element to load. See here, this is the one, it got a loaded. Perfectly all right. Now, what I'm gonna do right now here is on the same element, instead of identifying the single text, I'm trying to get all text contents. Okay, I'm trying to get all text contents. So here I'm changing it as a constant value is equal to. Okay, I'm changing it to constants value is equal to. Let me run this program and you can observe this particular difference now. I'm trying to execute this particular program and see here, guys. See, the output it retrieved is a null array. So the meaning out over here is all text content is the element. It is not waiting until the element got loaded on that particular web page. Okay, all text content is the one. This is not waiting until the element got loaded. Okay, in this situation you will be adding an explicit wait, or you will be adding, okay, in this situation you will be adding an explicit wait, or you will be asking an explicit timeout. Okay, you will be asking it to perform an explicit timeout here. So how exactly this is gonna work out? So here the simple chunk that I am gonna deal in this situation is, rather than printing this one, so here await expect. So here what I'm gonna do right now here is this page dot locator. Okay, this is the page dot locator, and on this particular locator I want to have a text basically. Okay, I want to have a text, and that text is gonna be, this is the text. Okay, this is the text. On this particular element, this is the text I want to wait for. And here, additionally, what we are doing is for this, comma, here I'm specifying my timeout. Okay, the timeout that I'm gonna specify here is a 20,000 milliseconds. Okay, here for this command, we are asking verify whether this particular text is there or not, and a maximum wait for 20,000 milliseconds. This is what the timeout that we have specified for that. Okay, so this is the way how exactly we can deal with this particular commands. Okay, so this is the way how exactly we can validate the auto waiting mechanism. By default, for most of the commands, you do have an auto wait. If the auto wait isn't working, then you can go for this wait for selector or that particular timeout, all these options that we can play around it. Okay, perfectly all right. In the next session, I'll be showing you a small example on how exactly we are going to wait for a URL and other chunks that we will be showing you as part of the next session. Okay, thank you very much. See you again in the next session. Bye bye.